Hello, welcome to our video about how to build a balanced, thoughtful, successful college list. My name is Annie Bihari and I am the Director of Student Success here at Service to School. And we are going to talk about building your college list. It can be a little stressful to create a list of schools that you want to apply to. There's a lot of like expectations and hopes when it comes to really thinking through the schools you want to go to. However, building a thoughtful college list that accounts for all the possibilities is the best way for you to reduce stress in an already stressful process. And it's a great way for you to take control over a situation that is really largely out of your control. I also want to emphasize before we get started that it is never our intention to dissuade you from applying to a particular college or university. We just want you to be informed, as informed as possible, so that at the end of the process, you are enrolling at a four-year school where you will be happy. That is our only goal, really. So here are the things that we'll talk about building, again, that college list, and we'll start really at the foundation. How you find schools to apply to, what that list should look like in terms of selectivity, and then how you make yourself competitive for those types of schools. So again, very basic, but I think it's foundational. A college list is a list of dream schools, any of which you would be happy to go to. That's a little bit of a different idea. We don't believe that there should be a singular dream school because it's an easy way to set you up for disappointment. So when you apply to college, you should be applying to schools that really excite you. And that means that you might have to do a little bit of legwork to find out what those schools are. But at the end of the day, you should be happy to go to any of the schools to which you are submitting an application. So how do you find schools to apply to? There are lots of search engines that are college oriented. We're going to talk about a tried and true one, and that one is called College Board's Big Future. So it's run by College Board, and there are different criteria here that you can use to help filter and look for schools. Another option, again, pretty basic, is start.edu, which is used by or founded by Slate. And you can look for schools based on size, location, and other characteristics. And then there are, in terms of these sort of more standard college search engines, Princeton Review has one, the Department of Education has one. So there are lots of different kinds that will help you learn more about schools. Another one that is pretty popular is niche.com, and this one is review driven. So unlike the other search engines, which are pulling based on data, these are ratings are driven by students who go there, and they basically review the college. Regardless of the type of search engine that you're using, we recommend that you take all of it with a grain of salt, especially obviously niche.com. It's easy to skew data one way or another when the ratings are consumer driven. And when you go to a website like Big Future, for example, you should really go back to the original school's website and basically confirm the information that you're finding here. So when it comes to things like graduation rate or financial aid, median GPA, things like that, you'll find those on search engines, but you should always go back to the original school's webpage and try to find that information and make sure that it's accurate and up to date. So you can absolutely use search engines to kind of get you started, but always go back to the original school's website. Now, when you do use these search engines, you're going to come across schools you've probably never heard of, and that's okay. You will have to do a little bit of weeding out to really find schools that are interesting to you and that meet your criteria. Another thing I want to mention is that search engines, the information that they pull is largely for the first year population. So for transfer students, you might have to go directly on a college's website to find information about the transfer population there. It wouldn't surprise me if some schools don't even keep track of that data. You might even have to reach out to the admissions office to find out things like average GPA or acceptance rates for transfer students. So you can still use a search engine to get you started, but definitely for the transfer students, you might have to reach out directly to get that transfer specific information. And finally, when it comes to search engines, I do want to say that you should refrain from typing best biology programs into Google, for example, because you're going to get a list of schools that are really excellent and that you already know about. Even if you type in best economics programs, it's probably going to be the same schools as the biology program schools. So we don't need help finding those schools. Those schools are probably already on your list. So that's not an effective way of going about starting your college search process. Instead, when you're really ready to start, you should think about what you're looking for. And you should be looking for the fit. You want to know whether you fit what a school is looking for and whether the school fits what you're looking for. And the things that you should be looking for, a really interesting, or really the best places to start, I think, is thinking about your academic opportunities. What do you want to study, and where can you study that? We have applicants who want to study marine biology. I don't know that there are many programs that in the middle of the country that offer marine biology. Could you study marine bio in Florida? Yeah, you can, but can you do that in Kansas? I don't think so. So you'll have to think about what you want to study and where that's possible. And then also think about non-academic opportunities. Do you want access to research? Do you want access to internships or shadowing opportunities? Schools that are bigger, they tend to offer all of those things, but it can be harder to get. So if that's a big, important criteria for you, maybe you need to think about going to a smaller school where you have more access. Things like location size, again, bigger schools, there's a lot going on. It's easy to feel a little bit lost. Smaller schools, you could be a big fish in a small pond, but maybe you feel limited by that. So think about where you succeed most as a student, where you'll thrive, and try to use that to help guide your college search. Another thing to think about are the non-physical attributes, things like the vibe of a campus. Do you want to go to a school where football is a big part of the student experience, where basketball is a big part, people are really excited about sports? Or do you want to go to a school that's a little bit more laid, a little bit more academically, or known for its academics, a school that's more rigorous or intensive, and there's a competition and a collaboration that drive students to work together? I mean, those things aren't mutually exclusive, but they can really help guide what types of schools you look for initially. Finally, anything else that is a priority to you. For example, do you want to go to a school where that's close to home, or where access to home is easier than schools that are maybe further out? Those things should be driving your college search process. Okay, so now, what is the breakdown of an ideal college list? And this is not, again, a hard and fast rule, but we recommend that you apply to about 6 to 8 schools. And as you can see here, we recommend 2 to 3 reach options, 2 to 3 likely or target options, 2 to 3 safety or backup options. Note the language here. Reach schools are ones that are very, very difficult to get into. Likely or target options are schools that have a manageable admit rate, and also a school where you kind of fall in the where you meet the academic criteria there. And then safety or backup options are ones that you feel you're confident about being admitted to. So let's go a step further and talk about this breakdown. When we say reach schools, we mean schools that have an admit rate of 30% or lower. And that means that they deny 70% of their students. You might think 30% sounds high, but when you're denying 70%, it's actually, we can't say with any certainty that you'll be admitted. We often have applicants who apply to 5 or 6 reach schools, just know that reach schools, the ones that are super, super selective, the applications require more work. Essays require more thought in order to be perceived well, meaning that they have to be well written, they have to be interesting and a little bit distinctive. Like they are harder applications generally. So we recommend that you limit your reach schools so that you can really put together the best quality applications. Target schools with that admit rate between 30 and 70%. It's a school you feel you can get into, especially if your academic statistics fall within the accepted students at that school. So if you look at the median GPA, you're right there. The median GPA of an admitted student, you're right there. That's a good metric to use with those target schools. And then your backup options are the ones that you feel confident you'll get into. But just note, we don't call schools safety schools anymore because every school wants to be more competitive. So you should be putting in equal amounts of work into all of your applications, regardless of what type of school you're categorizing it into. So a backup school should still be a school that you are interested in going to, and an application where you put in the amount of work required. How do you make yourself competitive? The first and most important thing in your application is your academic record, your transcript, and that's going to be doing the heavy lifting for you. You have to think about whether or not you can succeed academically at that school, because that's the first thing colleges are thinking about. Are you going to be able to do the work on their campus? So if you are at the point where you're still taking classes, your main priority is to continue to do well in those classes, to do as well as possible. And if you are coming to us and you've already taken your classes and you are not currently taking classes, just know that the transcript is going to be the first thing that they're looking at. The second thing that you are in control of when it comes to applying are your essays. It is the only way that you really speak to colleges. And it is a great way for you to highlight the ways in which you are the right student for that school. Most colleges will have supplemental essays. These are essays that are required by each individual school, and they are school specific. So your essay for Johns Hopkins University should not be your essay for University of Maryland. Those are two different schools. They have different approaches. They are in different places. So your essays need to be hyper specific and distinctive to each school that you are applying to. You should be able to articulate why a school's curriculum, their resources, their extracurricular opportunities, why those will help you achieve your goal at that school. That's the level of detail that you're looking for. And this is where you should be spending most of your time these days if you're currently applying. And don't forget that you should be highlighting things about yourself that are not in the application already. So the application is going to contain a lot of data points. Use your essays to kind of bring your personality to the application. And finally, there is a concept called demonstrated interest. It's the idea of showing colleges that you are interested in them. Some schools are more likely to admit students who are sincerely interested in them than they are to admit a student who's never shown interest in their school. That means that you should make an effort for certain schools to do a tour in person or virtually. You should make an effort to reach out to their admissions offices. There are ways that you can kind of connect to schools and show that interest. And I'll show you a page. There are lots of websites that track demonstrated interest and which colleges care about it. This is just one of them. And you can see that there's some information here about how to show that interest. And then further down, here are the schools that consider demonstrated interest in their application process. So American, for example, if you're interested in American, you should visit their campus online or in person. You should connect with them in some form. And then you'll see that there are varying levels of demonstrated interest and whether they're considered in the admissions process. But keep that in mind. That is absolutely in your control. So these are some things that you can do to make yourself more competitive for schools. And now let's sort of, I guess, wrap up how you build a balanced, thoughtful, successful college list. You have to know the facts. If you are applying to a school, you have to know why you're applying there. It is not enough to speak generally to a school. They need to understand why you're applying, and that means that you need to understand why you're applying. Be as informed as possible, and again, articulate those reasons in your essays. Control what you can. As you can probably tell from this presentation, there's a lot that is out of your control, but there are some things that you can be doing um, to help you kind of present the best side of yourself. Let your application speak for itself. Like I said before, your transcript will do the heavy lifting, especially for the more competitive schools. The more competitive schools, that's the thing that they're most interested in. If you have time, you can still make your best effort to be the best student you can be. Spend significant time on your essays and show that interest to the schools that care about it. That's as much as you can do right now. And lastly, you should manage your expectations. For the more competitive schools on your list, just understand how difficult it is to be accepted. You can do everything right and still not be admitted to a super competitive school. And that's okay. That's why we encourage you to build out this college list so that you would be happy to go to another school on your that you've applied to. That's why we recommend that you don't pin all of your hopes on one school. I often speak to applicants who tell me they want to shoot their shot, and we're happy to help you do that, but we also expect you to have a backup plan. Before we wrap up, I just want to reiterate it is never our intention to dissuade you from applying to one place or another. We just want you to be as informed as possible so that you can put together a strong application and move on to the next steps of your careers. This is your journey, and we are really happy to help you through it. Finally, here is my contact information. I would love to hear from you. If you have questions or concerns, feel free to email me, and I'll be happy to help. Thanks for coming.